We're hearing rumors that Marvel is trying very hard to reboot their entire enterprise, but one production in particular seems to have stalled yet again. Let's talk about Wesley Snipes openly mocking the Blade reboot here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here is a man who stalks vampires during the daytime, Mr. VashSky. Vash, have you ever tried to ice skate uphill?
No, but I have tried to snowmobile on the road there, and well, that didn't go very well either.
That's a very... Okay, so let's just get into the story so everybody can understand where we're coming from here. Wesley Snipes, hopefully you all have heard of him. He was the guy who played Blade back in the 90s and the early 2000s there. Pokes fun at the Blade Mahershala Ali reboot delays. Daywalkers made it look easy. Oh, here we go. By Glenn Garner of Deadline. As the Blade reboot hits another roadblock, fans aren't the only ones wondering if the movie will ever see the light of day. By the way, there have been rumors that Wesley Snipes had conversations with Marvel. I would love to know what those look like. More than 25 years after starring in the original, Wesley Snipes took to social media this weekend to react to the news that director Yann Demange has exited the MCU entry, which is set to star Mahershala Ali as the titular human-vampire hybrid. Blade, lordy, folks, still looking for the secret sauce, riding snowmobiles in traffic. Kinda rough, Snipes wrote Saturday on X. Daywalkers made it look easy, don't they? He originated the on-screen role in 1998's Blade before returning for Blade 2, and of course the comedy reboot Blade Trinity. Oh, man. Oh, look at this. Sticky Fingers played him in the TV series adaptation. A little history on Blade there. He originated in Tomb of Dracula. But there he is right there. Blade looking all cool. By the way, he might be the coolest Marvel character out there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Just tons of swag. This guy really embodied the role, embodied a very particular time of these comic book films, and really was kind of the best one of the bunch, at least then.
Yeah. And they were, I mean, the action was good. The sense of humor was good. The content rating was a little much, but at the same time, they weren't trying to market them as Marvel, your Disney brand. I don't think Disney didn't own them at this point. They were made by New Line, and now Marvel is, well, struggling a little bit. Ali is still attached to play Blade after he first boarded the reboot in 2019 when he and Feige announced the movie at San Diego Comic-Con. Although his version of the character has not yet been seen in the MCU, he can be heard in a post-credit scene from 2021's Eternals. I forgot about that. They stuck his voice in one of the many post-credit scenes in the Eternal. They also put Patton Oswalt and one of the One Direction guys, Harry Styles. Nothing has come from that particular end credit scene here.
This is all sorts of problems, Jonas. Even in this other article right here from Variety, talking about the same thing. It says Variety reported last November that Blade has gone through at least 5 writers by that time. One person familiar with the script changes said that the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. So, I mean, that is quite rough right there.
I just have to think, you can't linger enough on this point right here. Okay, sure. Blade, first of all, the name of the character is Blade. And they're not doing Tomb of Dracula. They're doing Blade. You cannot have a Blade movie and not have Blade as the main character. Physically, it is possible to do a Blade movie without Blade as the main character. But this is a rumor we were hearing was that Blade was replaced by like Blade's daughter or something like that. And that over and over again, we were getting indications that Ali was not pleased with however these scripts were going. He was Cottonmouth in the Luke Cage series for Netflix, which is, at the time, they were claiming that those were part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe when they really weren't. There was a completely separate division, Marvel Television, run by Jeff Loeb. And then with progression, they started to say, no, it's all connected, because they stuck Daredevil in She-Hulk and tried to say even the stuff that Marvel wasn't making at the time, even the Fox X-Men shows at times are part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Feige made it bigger and bigger and bigger. And ultimately now they've announced that no, Marvel Television is a separate division, and Marvel Presents, a special presentation, is going to be separate from Marvel Studios. And so now they're trying to say, no, it's segmented. It's not the same thing. So Blade, just being in the middle of all this thing, introduced somewhat in the Eternals, teased at a Comic-Con panel. all of this stuff right here, and I'm going to say something that there is a certain part of our audience is going to be offended by, but I think it applies. This sounds like MCU to me.
Yes. Oh, very much so. We've seen, look, I'm sorry, guys, if you're offended by MCU and that comment right there, but look at all of the female analogs for male characters that have been introduced over the past, 7 years or so. Like every single major character has their female equivalent. That's for a reason. So the idea of taking Blade, a very testosterone-driven franchise, or at least it was back in the day, and turning that into a female-led film, I don't know.
Right. And when I used to watch Blade back in the day, it was kind of like if Shaft was a vampire hunter. It called back to a lot of the blaxploitation films back in the day, and that was a lot of what Wesley Snipes brought to the character. He's a vampire hunter, but he actually goes in that, he calls them suckheads, which of course calls back to the idea of Blade calling people suckers. The idea that they want to make that a story led by women, and the way that Marvel tells women's stories right now, I don't know. I just don't think it's going to work.
Filled with life lessons, by the way.
Right. As opposed to Blade saying that you people are stupid, you can't trust these vampires, which, in many ways the vampires were kind of like the evil white people, and nobody had a problem with it because vampires are like the whitest of white people that you can get. And no one tried to tell you that it was a racial allegory and that people in real life were bad. It was just an action movie where a guy kills vampires and does ninja moves and has a katana and whatever. And then Ryan Reynolds shows up in the third one, and it's hilarious. I just don't understand why they can't get this right. You can make a vampire movie with an action star doing kung fu. I bet Wesley Snipes would be up for it if they wanted to. I've heard he's had some money troubles here in the past. If they did a Blade movie with Wesley Snipes, I think people would show up for it. This right here, I know they've got a great star. I think the guy can act. He did a great job as Cottonmouth in Luke Cage. But if they just guaranteed you were going to have like ninja fights and that the good guys might win in the end, and you might get some classic Blade dialogue in here, which is a little weird. Like some person is always trying to ice skate uphill, the joke that we keep calling back to. It's a weird line, but at the same time, it's iconic. I don't know. The whole thing is ridiculous. Vash, is there anything we need to cover before we wrap this thing up?
The only other thing that we need to cover is the fact that this has been reduced, to a $100 million production budget, which is pretty light by Marvel standards. So
I wouldn't be surprised if they spent $100 million rewriting this thing over and over again at this point.
No, that's terrible. Well, to me, it just says like the confidence that they have in this whole thing. I don't think they're truly 100% on board with it, which is weird because they want to obviously take advantage of the built-in audience that there was for Blade, but not actually recognize Blade officially. Like, it's a weird thing. I just think, hey, kind of just lean into it. You should have gotten Wesley Snipes back. I think that would have been a great creative move. Now, I have heard that Wesley Snipes, he's not necessarily fond of Hollywood these days, but I think you could have encouraged his return right there. Could you imagine him being incorporated into the MCU officially? That would have been so cool. But okay, I get it. Let's go with the hot young actor, or at least relatively speaking, that is. Okay, maybe that makes sense, but maybe that's also why they've had so many problems.
Yeah, the fact that this is $100 million to me, that actually speaks well to me of the production. I've jokingly referred to this as Campbell's inverse movie budget rule, is that after $100 million, the more money that they spend on the movie, the less likely it is to actually be a good movie. And Guillermo del Toro, by the way, directed the second Blade film, and I like the wrestling moves that are in that one. Of the entire series, yes, ninja moves, but also wrestling moves. This sounds insane to describe this. I'm hoping for somebody who has not watched Blade to watch this video and be like, what in the world are these guys talking about? That being said, I wouldn't take my kids to see a Blade movie at this point. That was when I had a different standard for the movies that I watched. But that being said, we want to throw this to our commenters. What do you think about this situation, this little dig from Wesley Snipes over there at Marvel? And by the way, like the video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.